Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to Live at the Waterhole, where first up we're at the wonderful Madikwe Game Reserve in the northwest province of South Africa, and specifically at the Jamala Waterhole. My name is Ralph Kirsten. What does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, you'll have to sit back, relax and enjoy watching the animals coming down for refreshments and to cool off. And as per usual, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. Also, you can join the conversation on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on the YouTube live chat. On X, you can use the hashtag WildEarth. What is it that you'd like to see? What would you like to chat about? Whatever it might be, wildlife related, send it through. Seems like it's already heating up here at Jamala. The elephants already cooling off. Yesterday we did have a lot of elephants here as well. And I spent a lot of time. There was quite a big breeding herd that hung about. So maybe we'll see the same individuals. There were tiny little babies with them. So initially this seems to be a bit of a creche. Lots of youngsters, but not those tiny babies that we had yesterday. But maybe they'll still come through. Also quite a few bulls. There was a little bit of argy-bargy going on. We also had quite a few bulls and a breeding herd at Rosie's Pan for the end of the show. So maybe today's the day we see some predators as well. Who knows? Always lovely to start with elephants, and seemingly the hotter it gets, the more we're going to see of them. We've been seeing quite a difference in the colors of these different elephants. We see the grey ones, and we also see the red ones, and the grey ones mostly down to throwing water all over themselves with this sort of greyish mud, and then the brown ones, I think it's probably due to the fact that they've been dust bathing. But speaking of the temperature rising here, I think let's go and have a look what the weather's going to be like across all the different locations. So it seems like it's going to be a clear day here at Madikwe, but across all the others, it seems quite overcast, but that's not changing the temperature. It's going to be very hot, and when it is overcast like that, in those particular spots, it's normally quite muggy, quite humid, so it might lend to the fact that the animals are still going to want to come and cool off. At Oldonyo in Kenya, a little bit of rain there. There was rain there yesterday as well, and we saw that lovely foam nest, frog nest, right next to the waterhole. So I'm pretty sure it will still be there. Quite interesting that it's actually next to the waterhole, and that those tadpoles are probably not going to be falling into the water. Well, they won't be. They're going to actually have to make their way over the little embankment and into the water if they're going to survive. But we had a lovely chat yesterday about the makeup of that foam, and how it's enabling itself to stay from desiccating or drying out, as well as the compounds that stop animals from eating it as well. So that was a lovely discussion, and I'm sure we'll further on that if we go across there later on when we bring on the Africam waterholes. Here's a lovely little youngster following in behind Mom, this elephant. Is it going to have a little drink? Yes, indeed. Mom stopped and just put her leg forward so it's nice and easily accessible. So, Almaro, thanks for your comment. And absolutely, isn't it just too cute? The next generation of elephants here on the Madikwe Game Reserve, there is quite a big population here, over 1,500 of them. Very healthy at the moment, but when is it going to be too many of them? That is indeed the question. I think they've probably reached the carrying capacity, so we'll see what happens in the future. So this little one, it looks like it's probably over a year of age, but probably younger than 2 years. So at about 2 years of age that they start to get their little tusks showing, but each individual is different. So on average, that's when they do start to show. So elephants are quite special in that they've got mammary glands behind the front legs. This is one of the characteristics that makes them different from a lot of the other mammals, where their mammary glands are behind or around the back legs, as opposed to in the front here. And this is one of the characteristics also that makes them similar to the likes of the dugong and the hyrax or dussie, amongst a couple of other things. They've got a very similar foot structure, those three. They've got nails instead of claws. They also have a similar placenta and a similar dental structure as well. Crazy to think that the closest relative of the elephant is in fact a dussie. Now, it would have obviously evolved in different directions over millions of years, but that is the fact. You can also see lots of scratching of the feet. It's probably the difference in temperature and the mud that's around there now that they've been walking in the waterhole. A couple of impala there in the background, just females. I think there's that's a young male on the right. And a nice group of ellies here. Oh, a little bit of indifference. And that one sliding down the embankment, just heading towards the water. You can see elephants, they've got a sense of humor, they've got real character, and they do love a lot of playtime as well, especially the youngsters. Females don't have as much time for play as the adult females, as the males do, but the youngsters, they all participate in a little bit of playtime, especially when there's a kind of embankment that they can slide up and down. I've often seen them in muddy areas where there is a muddy embankment. They absolutely love it. And of course, these youngsters will also be honing their skills, particularly around the trunk, because when they're first born, they can't really use it very well. So all those muscles, over 100,000 muscles within the trunk itself, more muscles in an elephant's trunk than we have in our entire bodies. So think about that. And sometimes when you look at them closely, they're like slinky toys, and you can see each and every individual movement. It's crazy to watch it up close. Nice bit of affection here between these individuals, but affection can often turn into a bit of wrestling as well, and a bit of fun. It's getting a nice chin scratch on top of this little one.
Are you in search of a unique, unforgettable adventure in the wild? Imagine living with the animals you see on TV while getting an inside look at how a live safari TV show operates. We're thrilled to offer this experience through our 7, 14 and 28-day EcoCam experiences. To book your spot, visit wildearth.tv/EcoCam. Come and join us for the bush experience of a lifetime.
It's really like there's 4 elephants here in the playground. They're having lots of fun. That one off in the back, just grabbing up all that loosened soil, throwing it all over itself. One having a roly-poly, and these two in the foreground, I think, having a bit of a wrestling match. So, as per usual, I always try to delve into a little bit of scientific reasoning when we're watching animal behavior, or ethology, as it's scientifically termed. And sometimes you think that things happen randomly. The word random is a very big part of nature. It's important for there to be randomness. However, sometimes there's a lot more reasoning behind the randomness. And I found a lovely little blog on Scientific American about this kind of playing behavior that you find in elephants. And they say that engaging in play allows animals to experiment with new behaviors in a protected environment without dangerous consequences. The unwritten code of conduct of surrounding play lets them explore many possible outcomes. Animals learn the rules of engagement for play at a very young age. Among dogs, the bow is a universal invitation to engage in silliness that triggers the same bowing down and splaying of the front legs in the receiver of the signal, inevitably followed by chasing and pretend biting. Chimpanzees and gorillas motivate others to romp by showing their upper and lower teeth in what primatologists refer to as a play face, which is comparable to human laughter. But bringing it back to elephants, as we see this buffalo now on the other side as well, when a young male elephant wants to play with another male of similar age, he holds his trunk up and presents it to the other as an invitation. Most often, his next move would be to place his trunk over the other's head, which is what we were seeing there, which in adults signals dominance, but in calves is guaranteed to precipitate a spirited sparring match. These encounters run the gamut from gentle shoving to intense headbutting and pushing back and forth with trunks intertwining and tusks clashing. The fun continues for seconds to minutes for youngsters. For older teens and young adults, it can go on for much longer. The sparring matches provide bulls with the opportunity to test their fighting ability so that they might successfully compete for a female when they reach sexual maturity and enter the hormonal state of must around the age of about 25. When a young male elephant is feeling particularly adventurous, he may venture far away from mom's protection to invite a distant relative to spar. If his foray takes him too far away, or if a spar turns unexpectedly rough, the brave calf will lose his nerve and often will run quickly back to mom's side, with ears flapping and trunk yo-yoing as he retreats. Occasionally, an older sister will oversee a play bout between youngsters. These ever watchful siblings form part of an extended caretaking network that facilitates play, but its members also will intervene if a calf crosses an invisible bloodline and gets deflected with a trunk slap by an overly protective, high ranking mother. And often there's also that sort of trumpeting that we hear from them. And that's, I think, also bringing them back into line and sorting out the over adventurous youngsters. This is an old bull. You can see how his ribs are showing. He's been left behind by the herd, and we term them Dugger boys. He's even got one broken horn as well. So he's probably got many stories to tell, but he is in the sort of twilight of his life. And he is a little bit more of a prey item to lions. So we used to see about 5 of these buffaloes here, bulls, that were wallowing on almost a daily basis. And we haven't seen many of them for a while. So I'm wondering if some of them have indeed been taken out, this being potentially one of the last of that group that have survived. Terence, yeah, I think he does look sad, but I think in his mind he's probably just quite arthritic. He's potentially a little bit sore, and well, now he doesn't look so sad, does he? He's getting himself nicely muddied up. This is very typical of these old buffalo bulls. That's why we call them Dugger boys, actually, because they like to cake themselves in mud Very often even have it all over the horns. Oh, we've got a bit of a wayward camera, but there we go. Back in line. So yeah, having been left behind by the herd, he's up to his own devices, and it does make him more vulnerable to lion attack. And that's why they often do get taken out. At least in some way, I think that's quite a nice thing for buffalo, that they don't just dwindle away and die natural death. They most likely will get taken out. You can also see they start to lose their hair quite a bit. So the mud does help to protect their coats and their skin without the hair that they start to lose at this elderly age. Picasso, I will have a look into your question. I've never noticed buffalo having nose termites or mites. They probably do, though, in some way or other. Those mites can be, microscopic. So I'll have a look and see if I can find anything out about the mites or presence thereof, specifically in buffalo, and I'll let you know. Oh, he's having a real roll. I think he wants to roll completely over.
This immersive program will give you an in-depth understanding of the African bush in as little as 7 days. You'll be guided by expert trainers who will lead you through the various ecosystems of Africa and teach you essential bush skills. Join Eco Training's 7 or 14-day EcoQuest course and you will receive 500 Rand off whether you sign up locally or internationally using this promo code. Further your journey as a true bush enthusiast today.
There, you might horn the mud as well. They often get it all up over their boss, and that central part of the horn structure as well. Oh, he's having a good old belly scratch now. Get in. He's absolutely loving it. So from a sad-looking individual, he looks quite happy now that he's in his happy place in the mud. So, just following on the question on nasal mites in buffalo, and I found something on the Western College of Veterinary Medicine. And they say that Pneumonisoides canemum, the nasal mite of dogs and very rarely other carnivores, is a long-legged surface mite that appear yellow nasal mucosa in life. The adult mites are up to approximately 1 millimeter in length and 0.5 millimeters wide and can be seen with the naked eye. Pneumonisoides canemum is found in dogs around the world, with reported prevalences of up to approximately 20%. Individual dogs may harbor up to approximately 250 mites. Many infested dogs show no clinical signs, with some owners being unaware of the mites in their dogs until one or more are sneezed out. Clinical signs of nasal mite infestation include rhinitis sinusitis, or reverse sneezing. That's an interesting one. Have you ever reverse sneezed? And watery eyes. There's published evidence that infestation with nasal mites is a significant risk factor for gastric dilatation torsion. Diagnosis relies on recovery of the mites from sneezed material or by rhinoscopy. Ivermectin, milbemycin, moxidectin, and selamectin have been shown to be effective in relieving clinical signs in some cases. So it seems like it's limited only to canines or predators, if we could say that, carnivores, but very rarely in wild species, mainly limited to dogs. So I don't think that buffalo do, in fact, get nasal mites. They do carry TB, however, and many of this buffalo present in the Kruger National Park, as well as here, would have TB with them, but it presents itself when their immune system is at a low. So as we've also seen with the S8 male lion, and James Hendry discussing that in depth on the sunrise and sunset safaris. Lots to be said about that, but in general, the buffalo do carry TB, but it only presents itself in all the animals that would feed on them as well when their immune system is at a very low ebb, which happened with the S8 male, seemingly in a confrontation with buffalo, and probably having been injured. That's when the TB then presented itself and was probably the lead cause in his death. It's nice to have a buffalo as the star of the show for a change. We've been watching elephants a lot. Not that I'm complaining, but nice just for a little change. And who said buffalo can't have fun? This guy definitely, I think, having a bit of that. There's real enjoyment here. So, Beatrice, I think everybody who would mud bathe like this, you could have a lovely glowing skin. And I think that's part and parcel of why these buffalo really love to get stuck in the mud. They probably feel wonderful afterwards. It's also a nice way to cool off, especially on a hot day like this. If you're an old Dugger boy, you've been left behind by the herd, and you've got nothing to lose, so why not go and have a bit of fun and enjoy yourself on a hot summer's day. So, for your follow-up comment on the symptoms that your dog has had with nose mites. And I don't know if you witnessed any of that reverse sneezing that the veterinary medicine of Western College has indicated that does occur. I think that would be an interesting kind of sneeze. But yes, becoming lethargic, etc., I suppose it does have quite an impact on their immune system as well. And I hope he was treated with one of those ivermectin or milbemycin, moxidectin. I suppose it's all kind of antibiotics, antiparasitic medicines that the vet would have administered. I don't know if this buffalo's had enough or if he's just looking for another spot to roll around. Maybe he's heading off. So, Jimmy, yeah, that's the beauty of these remote cameras. None of these animals do know that we're watching them. So, I think it's a wonderful concept because there's no presence felt in any way whatsoever. The animals can't see or smell us. Their biggest sense being a sense of smell. So we're rarely seeing them in their natural behavior with no impact from us whatsoever. Very often, when after the animals have wallowed or mud bathed, they'll go and find a scratching post. It's like that's exactly what this buffalo is doing now. And then they scratch up against it, and it does pull off a lot of mud. You will always find lots of logs and posts and trees surrounding and near to water holes that are fully caked in mud. You can often tell, obviously, which animals it was that was scratching on that post as to the height of it. And it's one of the things we'll look for as guides and also out on trail. You will check because we refer back to those three wallowers, the rhino, buffalo, warthogs, but elephants will also do it. They They don't really wallow in the mud, but they do cake themselves in mud and then also go and scratch on the trees and the posts, etc. But according to the height of it, you can very often tell who's been using that particular spot as a scratching post. Elephants obviously getting very high, and the rhino and the buffalo sort of that mid-range, and then very low sites of that is caked in mud would be from the warthogs. He's obviously got an itch in between somewhere there around his boss. This is how the animals scratch themselves. They don't really have hands to do so, so they use whatever they can find. Olivia, yes, indeed. The full spa treatment from this buffalo. And now he's sharpening his horn a little bit and getting a scratch between his eye and the top of his head, breaking that stump a little bit. So you can see often a lot of these logs and posts, they sort of polished quite smooth as well from the extensive use as scratching posts. There's some sites in the Namib Desert in Damaraland where the sort of treks that I used to take on ancient trails of elephant and black rhino. Black rhino love to use sort of scratching posts as well. Out in the middle of nowhere, they don't really wallow like elephants do, but there's some particular spots that I've found, some dolerite rocks that have been polished over thousands of years of black rhino using it as a scratching post, absolutely smooth, where in the area there's a lot of jagged rocks, and then one that is obviously the perfect scratching height and shape has been polished that you could see almost like a mirror, your face in it. So sometimes they become ancient scratching sites used over the centuries by different generations of different animals. Is he going to lean up against it? Yeah, looks like he's wanting to get that on his side. Oh, yes. I think he might be like a warthog and do a bit of a bum scratch. No, he's going to get the other side, maybe. He's looking at that log very affectionately. I think he's really liking this scratch. And I must say, buffalo are probably one of the best tongue nose pickers as well. Giraffe are pretty good at it, but I think between giraffe and buffalo is the best in the business. whenever I have kids on board, and with my own kids as well, I always find that amusing and try and get them to pick their noses with their tongue, and the attempts are hilarious.
What if you could explore the world from an entirely new perspective? Flying a real drone live without leaving home. This is Nature Eye. Discover our planet's landscapes with a personal guide and a powerful camera. Every flight helps conserve the locations you visit. Book your adventure with Nature Eye.
So just as I thought the elephants had moved off, they've shown themselves once more. Not quite ready to leave. So Molly, they might be able to hear a little bit of the sound of the camera moving. We have noticed sometimes when the animals are close to the camera and it moves, there is a bit of curiosity towards it. So I think they can notice the movement and a little bit of the noise, but they are relatively quiet. So it's only if they're very close. But yeah, very, very low impact, if any at all, which is just when they do notice it when they're very close. But not in this camera's instance. I think they would be more concerned with the people that are at the lodge. And sometimes you hear their voices, etc., as they're watching out over these elephants. We have noticed a little bit of change in behavior when there are loud people. There's been quite a bit of laughter, etc. And then there is a bit of noticing from the elephants towards that. But towards the camera, I haven't noticed any kind of behavior that would indicate they've noticed this camera is moving about. So I just want to carry on a little bit on the sort of subject of play within animals. And I'll sort of draw it out a little bit over the entire show because we do see a lot of playtime next to these water holes, and we've chatted a bit on it. But continuing on from the Scientific American, forms of play. And scholars of animal behavior or ethology recognize three main categories of play. The first is social play, which is any kind of antic that involves others. The second is locomotive play, including running, walking, jumping, and pouncing, which facilitates lifelong motor skills. In prey species, locomotive play helps perfect predator avoidance tactics, such as the springbok's pronking high into the air while running as a herd and landing in unpredictable spots. In elephants, it hones behavior or predator avoidance skills, as well as strategies for escaping an aggressive suitor or a competitor looking to inflict a mortal wound. Conversely, young predators, such as lion cubs, use locomotive play to sharpen their hunting ability. Chasing and tripping littermates and then giving them a good chew on the spine or throat are rehearsals of the skills needed to catch prey animals and dispatch them by severing their spinal cord or choking them. Many species, including our own, engage in the mock fighting variety of locomotive play, which allows them to test their strength in a safe environment where everyone understands the rules. And if you're South African, that's through rugby mostly. A playful spar in elephants is just like an arm wrestle between human peers. When play becomes more elaborate and determined, it turns from an arm wrestle into something akin to martial arts, allowing both participants to practice skills and develop innovative solutions that could help them avoid mortal combat later in life. Play fighting also provides opportunities to test boundaries, gauge who can be trusted, and learn important body language. Now, something interesting as well is how often in our own families do grudges of older generations get put aside because of bonds forged by the next generation through play. The third main category of play is object play, which incorporates objects from the environment into the cavorting. We see that often with Dewey when he plays with the resident hippo at Juma, who plays with sticks and logs. But for an elephant, this object might take the form of a stick or a branch as well, that the elephant explores, carries, or throws with its trunk. In captivity, elephants enjoy playing with balls or hauling inner tubes around for fun. Alternatively, the object could be another animal, such as a zebra or giraffe, that offers an irresistible opportunity for a chase. We often see the little young baby elephants chasing the likes of guinea fowl and even little wagtails that are normally moving around them, looking for the insects that they bump up. In one case, a 4-year-old male calf named Leo taught his baby brother, Liam, just how fun such a chase can be, leaving Liam scrambling to keep up with Leo's charge as the giraffe made a quick escape. That's very interesting, and I think that elephants have probably got the biggest sense of humor and sense of play out there. So 2 other forms of play have only been documented in great apes, including humans. One of these, game playing, combines social, locomotive, and object play. Sports such as soccer, field hockey, lacrosse, and polo are examples of traditional games that become formalized as sports with specific sets of rules. Among non-human great apes, only captive individuals raised in human contexts play formal games. The other variety of play that appears to be unique to great apes is make-believe. For example, a wild chimp may carry around a small log, pretending it's an infant. A human child might play with an invisible toy or set up an invisible barrier that they want adults to acknowledge. But it's not just fun and games all the time. Play provides an environment for experimenting with risks. When a lion cub deliberately gives up some control over its body, it puts itself at a disadvantage, allowing others to succeed on pouncing on it. Mark Beckhoff of the University of Colorado Boulder and his colleagues have proposed that play increases the versatility of movements used to recover from a loss of balance and enhances the ability of the player to cope with unexpected stressful situations. The goal is not to win, but to improve skills, sometimes by self-handicapping. And I think that can also be sort of a way to entrap an opponent, is to pretend that you're knocked over or at a disadvantage, and then when it comes to try and take advantage of that advantage, it realizes that you're not really in the position that you thought you were. So lots to talk about around play as these elephants now on the right there get down and dirty in exactly what I was talking about.
Eco Training's professional field guide course can make your dreams a reality. This comprehensive program comprises 5 months of theoretical and practical training in the African bush with highly qualified instructors in multiple locations. Enroll today and receive 5,000 Rand off using the promo code. If you've just finished school or tertiary education and you want to head into the wild, Eco Training's professional field guide course is for you.
And this youngster really going right under the water and having just a wonderful time. That youngster at the top of the screen gonna do the buffalo impression now. Now breaking open the mud in the bank of this water here. It will make lots more mud. Just flexing itself, I think, and enjoying the feeling of the looseness of that soil. So carrying on a little bit about play and the subject thereof, scientifically speaking. And we were speaking about the lions and them playing, especially the youngsters. And once a cub has been tackled by its littermates, roles might reverse such that a littermate handicaps itself, allowing the other cub to tackle it in return. Self-handicapping is risky and requires trust, but it is a great way to develop strength and agility. It's also an important exercise in building cooperation. In the Sawtooth Wolf Pack, raised by Jim and Jamie Dutcher in the Sawtooth Mountains in Idaho, the dominant wolf would slow down to allow a close companion that happened to be a subordinate to catch up and tackle him. In elephants, on a number of occasions, I've seen older male calves crouch down to allow a much younger calf to spar with them. This is akin to an older brother handicapping himself during an arm wrestle by not using all of his strength to let his little brother win. My older brothers we used to play rugby in the lounge, but they used to go on their knees so that they could handicap themselves and that I had a chance. Very similar. And being silly is another important aspect of play, one that gets us outside our comfort zone and forces us to test new strategies. Silliness in our movements, behavior, and even language helps us think much more broadly and creatively, and some people more silly than others. Problem solving derived from the silliness of play has been demonstrated in many species and even in robots. When computer scientist Hod Lipson of the Columbia University gave his artificial intelligence robots a chance to play by dancing around in random movements, they outperformed other robots when challenged with the unexpected. The positioning information garnered from moving around randomly led one robot to come up with creative solutions for maintaining its balance after losing a limb. Likewise, when sea lions play in the surf, they often project themselves high into the air midway down the face of monster waves, like those that roll into Santa Cruz. These are just the kinds of behaviors needed to avoid an attack by a great white shark, their primary predator apart from killer whales and humans. And play also builds trust. Thomas Bignar of the University of Vienna in Austria and his colleagues found that ravens pretend to cache highly valued food items and then watch how other ravens respond, apparently to determine whom they can trust. Learning how to differentiate competitors from likely reliable collaborators early on has obvious advantages. Whether one wants to gain allies or build a coalition within a group or repair broken relationships. So play should be on everybody's daily agenda. Smiling and laughing are contagious behaviors that facilitate bonding, are curative, and most important, do not have to take up much time. The next time you feel like you're too busy to play a frivolous game at work, or you don't want to face that family reunion, make the time and muster the will. You might be surprised at the outcome, whether it be a better idea for a pitch meeting or the dissolution of a long-standing barrier between you and a contentious relative, thanks to a good giggle. Our highly adaptive and innovative nature is rooted in play. I'm grateful to my favorite, the elephants, and because they remind me that there's always something new we can learn from, and that we are never too old to internalize those lessons. A good romp can pay off in ways I hadn't anticipated. It forges new bonds, reunites divided families, improves coping skills and overall health, and facilitates cooperation and innovation. Given all these benefits, how could we afford not to play? And there's another classic example of an elephant just chasing off that zebra. In jest, in play, in practice, it's all worthwhile. Not that the zebra is too happy about it. Yeah, there he goes again. He's obviously enjoying getting rid of that little zebra. Well, from the little elephant, who's smaller than the zebra. He obviously enjoys being able to chase the other animals away. So there's just so much to talk about with elephants that I'm just going to continue rambling on and finding all sorts of lovely information, just adding to the repertoire of sort of knowledge that I've gained around them. It's always fascinating to watch elephants. And just these intricacies, I think, make it even that more interesting. And there's a website called Wild Tomorrow, and they speak of elephant connections. For many people around the world, it is a fascination for elephants that first draws them into the world of wildlife conservation. I know quite a lot of conservationists that have gone into that line because of elephants. And for me, it's one of the biggest parts of why I've continued in this line of work as well. It's the love and care that elephants demonstrate for their family and their herd that pulls at our heartstrings and implores us to work harder to fight for their protection. And also one of the most beautiful and intriguing maternal bonds in the animal kingdom, which includes humans, of course, is the bond between elephants and their young. Elephants help us to cross the bridge of understanding between our species, to see who they are, and to reconnect with the non-human life that we share our planet with. Perhaps in them we see a version of what we aspire to be. Intelligent, social, emotional, respectful of ancestors, playful, self-aware, and compassionate. These are just some of the words that elephant behavior experts have used to describe what they have personally witnessed while observing elephants in the wild. In the life and culture of an elephant, females are central and dominate their society. Older female elephants, sisters, their adult daughters, and all their children live together in herds led by a female matriarch who serves as the central holder of history and knowledge. The matriarch makes decisions about where the family will go and serves as their chief protector. Daughters of the matriarch typically stay with a herd for most, if not all, of their lives. Elephants find safety and security in their herd and depend on these bonds and friendships for food and protection. A newborn infant elephant is born largely helpless. For its first months, the baby sticks close to mum, often in physical contact. Meanwhile, mum makes soft humming sounds to her infant. Baby elephants are adorably uncoordinated and often trip, fall in holes, and need help from the herd. Their loud cry for help brings an immediate response, with mum, aunts, and grandmothers rushing in to help. They're also great babysitters, particularly for inexperienced mothers. You can imagine that if we were sitting alongside these different people, and these elephants, which we are doing right now, you might be able to hear the rumble of these mothers reassuring the baby elephant infants and saying in elephant speak, "I'm here and you are safe."
Attention all teachers. Round up your bundles of joy and get comfortable because WildEarth Kids Safaris are here to stay. Go to our website and sign your class up for a special virtual safari with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Good afternoon or good morning, boys and girls from all over the world.
Spoil your kids with some wild fun for 1 hour every weekday on our afternoon drives. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So elephants are the largest living terrestrial animals on our planet, and that translates to big babies and a long gestation period. After carrying her baby for a long 22 months, a baby African savanna elephant is born weighing around 260 pounds and only 3 feet tall. Like us, they need a lot of help and guidance from their mother and extended family to grow and thrive. Most mammals are born with brains weighing 90% of their adult weight. Elephant brains at birth weigh only 35% of their adult brain weight. For humans, our brain weighs about 25% of its adult size when we are born. That means that elephants, like human babies, do most of their development after birth. They learn everything about how to be an elephant from their mom and other elephants within the protective herd that surrounds them. And that, for me, is also, I think, a very good indication of intelligence, of how much you're able to learn and how much your brain grows from the size of when you're born as to when you're an adult. I think it's a very close correlative link. So, Nadia, I think that is a definite yes. We play for fun and we also strengthen bonds. We also learn about our environment and all the skills and motor skills of our bodies required for when we are adults. So, I think that's an unequivocal yes. Absolutely. If you've seen an elephant playing with its trunk, like we very often do, especially at these water holes, you know how adorable and delightful the intellectual development of a baby elephant is to observe. Just like a child learning to hold a pencil and understanding how to grip with fingers and toes, a baby elephant has to get to know how to work its own trunk. They experiment by tossing or whirling their trunk around, figuring out how it works. I liken it to an out of control fire hydrant. So, and it does take the baby elephants about 5 months to sort of get some kind of grip on their trunks, their rubbery trunks that seem to just go everywhere. But I would say it's almost up to a year to actually perfect it and use it properly. But baby elephants also learn how to manipulate attention from their mothers and aunties and may even become a bit spoiled. Does that sound familiar for us as humans? Distress calls from baby elephants are so frequent, researchers often get the impression that the youngster isn't really in trouble at all. He's just looking for attention, as we say. So, while elephants may not have Facebook, they too live their lives in relationships that radiate into wide, layered social networks. Two or more families that have a special friendly relationship with each other are called a bond group. And these bond groups can be made up of family members, a formerly family split in two, friends, or any combination. This family group, the herd, forms the foundation for shared infant care and child rearing in an elephant nursery. Aunties and sisters watch the youngsters closely, ready to rush to their aid at the first sign of distress, or even fake calls for attention. Now, elephants, even up to full-size elephants, also play games against imaginary predators and threats, just like human children used to play to learn skills for the future. charging through the grass, chasing a bird, ears out and trunk waving around. This mock charge behavior is a fun practice version of what an adult elephant would do when faced by a lion or humans on game drive vehicles who get too close. Part of the herd's role is allowing youngsters to explore and learn through their own experiences, often through play. And we saw that with that little youngster charging at that unfortunate zebra. Elephants also show empathy. They help each other if one is injured. They've been observed putting food in the mouth of another who's injured and removing a dart from a wounded friend. They are known to grieve their dead. I've seen this a lot, especially in the Namib Desert with the desert elephants of multiple herds spending extended periods around carcasses and going there year upon year and doing the same. And they stop and touch the bones, whether it's family members or not that have departed.
The expert in anything was once a beginner. November 17th is International Students' Day. Join us as we have budding naturalists learn from our wildlife experts on Drive. Come along as we demonstrate various critical guiding techniques, from good communication to tracking. Find out about all the tips and tricks and earn your safari stripes. Don't miss out on the fun. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So we also say that elephants are known for their incredible memories, and this extends to their understanding of who is who in their elephant social networks. Older females have the most extensive knowledge of the voices and calls of elephants in other family groups. And then a growing herd or a matriarch's death can cause families to slowly split into new groups. On the other hand, fragmented families sometimes come together and merge. And this splitting and merging of social groups is called fission fusion. Because elephants like us live in fission fusion groups, what they're doing makes sense to us. Many of the most complicated animal societies include ours, apes, wolves, and certain whales are also fission fusion. For elephants, status comes with age. Elephants respect their elders for good reason. Survival can depend on an individual who learned information decades before, such as where to dig for water in a drought. Desert-adapted elephants visit water sources as far as 65 kilometers apart, and sometimes a lot more than that. They have been recorded covering over 650 kilometers in 5 months. They sometimes travel hundreds of kilometers along routes not used for many, many years to arrive at water sources just after the onset of rains. And I've witnessed this in person. And how did they know that? It's, I think, just down to that they can detect distant thunder rumbling through the earth and turn towards it, as well as from the memory of knowing exactly where these water points are. So it's nearly time for us to include the Africam waterholes. So we'll be jumping around just to see what else is going on. Obviously, this is action-packed with these elephants here, but nice to get a bit of change of scenery and checking out the different waterholes. So that's coming shortly. You can hear the low rumblings of lots of communication happening between these numbers of individual elephants here.